The government has described the coalition's nuclear energy plan as a complete farce and cast doubt over their commitment to net zero. The opposition has released its modelling showing its policy would cost about $330 billion over the next 25 years. Let's bring in our political reporter Peter Lusted, who is at Canberra's Parliament House for us. Peter, can you take us through the coalition's plan and particularly what the modelling says about whether it will be cheaper?
Yes, we've been waiting for this modelling for about 6 months, and Frontier Economics has put it out now. It looks at the coalition's plan. It says by 2050 its nuclear plan will cost Australia $331 billion. Now that would be a plan that would see 7 nuclear plants, and the first nuclear reactor would be up and running, they tell us, by 2035. The plan would see 38% of Australia's electricity provided by nuclear energy and 53% by renewable energy by 2050. That renewable figure is about a doubling of what we have now. Peter Dutton, the opposition leader, was out spruiking it today, and here's what he had to say.
This is a plan which will underpin the economic success of our country for the next century. This will make electricity reliable, it'll make it more consistent, it'll make it cheaper for Australians, and it will help us decarbonise as a trading economy as we must. And the fact is that we can deliver a plan which is going to keep the lights on, and we have a plan and a vision for our country which will help grow businesses, not close them down.
Now, there's been a lot of debate about the figures as to how much the coalition's plan is cheaper than Labor's. We've seen the figure bandied around today at $263 billion, but having a look at that report, it doesn't necessarily compare apples with apples. Either way, the coalition's plan does come out cheaper, significantly so, but the modelling compares the coalition's plan versus Labor under 2 models. Under a low emissions model, it says the coalition's plan would be $148 billion cheaper. Under a high emissions model, it says that the coalition's plan will be $106 billion cheaper. Now, one of the reasons the coalition's plan is able to be so cheaper is that it's factoring in that Australia will have a lot less energy demand than what Labor is predicting by 2050. 2 of the main factors they say that why that will happen is because Labor's figures look at a prediction that by 2050, 98% of the new cars that are bought in Australia will be electric vehicles, and of course they would need a lot of energy to be charged. The other difference in the figures as well is that the coalition has factored in has taken away something that Labor has factored in. Labor was looking at a green hydrogen industry in Australia. Now that's particularly energy, it takes a lot of energy, and the coalition say they wouldn't have that in their plan, therefore there would be less energy demand.
And Peter, the government has responded to this plan. What were the main criticisms that we heard from the Energy Minister, Chris Bowen?
Well, he described it as a Christmas con job. He was particularly critical of the coalition's plan to rely on coal for a lot longer. He said that will obviously have problems for higher emissions in Australia. And he also said one of the problems with that is that the longer that coal is relied upon, the older that Australia's coal stations will be, and that they will be more problematic, less reliable, and possibly causing more blackouts. He was also critical that the coalition didn't put a price on what this plan would do for energy prices.
After months of talking about what nuclear would mean for energy bills, they couldn't even put a price on the impact of their plan on the average bills of Australians. Now, we know the experts have already done that work and have said it could increase bills by $1,200, up to $1,200 a year.
Chris Bowen was also very critical of, as I mentioned earlier, the coalition describing or predicting that Australia will have less energy demands by 2050. He said that it is a fatal and dangerous error. He also pointed holes in the coalition's prediction that by 2050, 38% of Australia's electricity would be provided by nuclear energy. He said that would make Australia one of the world's biggest nuclear producers, and he said that that is quite unrealistic, seeing that 2050 is the target, and right now Australia doesn't even have a nuclear industry up and running.